I have not felt that sense of relief since, well, last Sunday for roast dinner when my greedy freeloading family was over expecting to be fed, and you could do Yorkshire puddings 1,000 times the exact same way, to precision, the rituals, the prayers, and yet still it can all get fouled up. But when you see those little puddings rising in the oven, oh, it's relief, just like on Wednesday, and roast dinner was saved. Now, I'm not saying we saved the season, but I'm pulling out some really good hooch for this particular episode. Yeah, that's an 18, and presented by my equally relieved sponsors, 24/7 Services. Let's review Villa 3, Brentford 1. Hallelujah! It's been a while since I've been that anxious before a game, because this is a good opponent, despite the fact they've never won a Premier League game at Villa Park and they've only collected 1 point on their road travels so far this season. This is a good and dynamic and well-managed outfit that's punching way above the money that it spends. But you know what? God was smiling on us on Wednesday. I'm talking about Paul McGrath, of course, on his 65th birthday. 65. Does that mean that he's now officially a senior in Ireland? Does he get discounts on breakfasts? Well, he should anyway. I'd like to officially welcome you to the Holy Trinity show, which hasn't reviewed a win since October 22nd. That's 43 days ago. But today we can review the 3 big issues or moments that defined Villa 3, Brentford 1. Samir just got home from India, but he's jet-lagged to the hilt there in Leeds. But Alex Dutton, guitar hero from Atarka, was there in the rain, also feeling this niggling sense of unease, as so many fans have been feeling during the stretch. Also a hat tip to Pat Fowkes, who grabbed some footage for me as well, but not enough to get his picture shown. Key numbers reflected a more comfortable victory than what we probably witnessed with our eyes, but encouraging was the number of times we got into high expected goals territory. Villa attempted 20 shots and hit the target 10 times, so a 50% rate, which I think should be the minimum. And then we created another 4 big chances. I looked at clearances as the special stat, 22-20 favoring Villa. Not surprisingly, Tyrone Mings had 6 of those. Be honest now, you were having dark thoughts when Damsgaard scored in the 55th minute, seemingly against the run of play, and after Villa had created a slew of great opportunities. I know I did. Visions of 3-all or even worse. And Yuri Tielemans sure looked like he was fouled in the lead up to this, but also Yuri just has to be stronger. He has that tendency, doesn't he, to go down easy or to get caught in the blind side. And I believe he's overdue for a rest now, which is where Amadou Onana could come in handy. Pleasing issue. Ian Maatsen finished that game playing as an attack-minded, left-sided player with Luca Dean in place of John McGinn. And you know what? Nobody died. In fact, Maatsen and Dean had some very tidy little interchanges that were almost telepathic in nature. And I hope we see this configuration again for all the reasons I stated in my last show. He's quick, he's direct, he's tricky, he has good delivery. I don't think he's really put a foot wrong for Villa. And considering how much we spent on him this summer, and also what he left to come here, I would say Maatsen is underutilized. Part of that, though, is down to Luca Dean. Our French fullback created more chances than anybody else on the park. 4. And he also had to deal with Mbuno in the defensive third, who you hardly noticed in this game. Whew, how tough is it being a Brentford traveling supporter right now? 1 point to celebrate, and that was a 0-0 at Goodison Park. Once again, I wonder, could we see Tyrone Mings playing between Ezri Konsa and Pau Torres, pushing our fullbacks up higher where they gravitate naturally? In fact, it's the fullbacks that often provide our width. Then you ask either Kamara and or Onana to play as double pivots and have 2 number 10s playing behind the striker. I'm sure Unai Emery has fiddled with this particular formula at his secret laboratory in some abandoned warehouse in Hockley. Moderate issue, but one of the reasons why it's been hard to integrate Jaden Philogene into this squad and to earn the trust of Unai Emery is because for most of the season, we've been chasing games. And yes, he did fly in a couple of times recklessly on challenges, and he gave away a dumb foul. But by being on Unai Emery's side of the park, I think that actually settled him down because the manager sorted him out. And then very late in the game, he went on this incredible mazy run from the right touchline almost all the way across to the left, leaving about 5 guys in his wake. First, I hated it, and then I kind of loved it. But introducing Jaden Philogene with a 2-goal lead or maybe more, that's a totally different proposition. I'll tell you who else was relieved on Wednesday, and that's Painter Jay from 24/7 Services. I mean, as every winless game went by, the color selection was getting darker and darker. And Jay's not just the guy who applies the final coat, he's also the guy who gives you the final quote. He's doing estimations now, and the decorating branch at 24/7 Services is among the busiest, and Jay is the brains and eyes behind the entire design process. The ability to identify colors, color combinations, and how they sort of match with different materials and textures, that takes a special set of eyes, and Jay was born with those eyes. Here's a great New Year's resolution. Transform a space in your home or at your commercial enterprise. The hardest part is finding somebody who can help you make those color and material determinations, and Jay would be happy to help. And you know what he'd really be happy to help with? If you decided to turn your home office or man cave into your own villa-themed parlor with a better paint job than this one, oh, Jay would have a field day with that, and I'd love to show those on this program. You can get in touch with Jay and 24/7 Services either using the numbers in the description of this video or through the company website. Big issue. Our goalkeeper, the best in the world, has a fissure on one of his fingers. Not a fracture, but still must be painful. Like, does he have to take injections before a game to deal with that? And we did not allow our opponent a single shot on target in the entirety of that first half. That is a very optimal situation under the circumstances. Now, losing the clean sheet was irritating, but on Wednesday, the only thing that mattered against a team that was averaging 2 goals 4 per game was to get the 3 points. Totally unrelated, but I just blasted through season 1 of Line of Duty. What a great series. I'd never even heard of this before until a friend of mine said, "What do you mean you haven't heard of Line of Duty?" That was shot in Birmingham, that first series, was it not? Sure looked like it, but police investigating other crooked cops. What a concept. Maybe one day they could do a series like that, only with Premier League referees. Big moment number 3, cash deposit. When the Polish Cafu blasted home his 34th minute strike against the very team that his dad Stuart appeared with 14 times in his career, it was starting to feel a little bit like that Aaron Danks smoke show from back in 22 against Brentford. Remember that 4-0 win at home just before Unai Emery took over? You heard, by the way, that Aaron Danks joined Vincent Kompany's staff at Bayern Munich in the meantime. That's a decent appointment. And although there was some ambiguity over whether Ollie Watkins was in an offside position or interfering with the play, I have to tell you, I think Matt Cash was 100% in contention for man of the match on Wednesday. The fine lines that separate wins from losses include getting meaningful contributions from everybody in your lineup at both ends of the park. And apart from his goal on Wednesday, Matt Cash was 4 for 4 on tackles. He had 2 blocks, 2 interceptions, 4 recoveries. He went 6 for 7 on ground duels, and 2 for 2 on successful dribbles, and by being a meaningful contributor in his position. That allows us to play Ezri Konsa where he's probably meant to, where he can make recovery defensive runs like this one. The question now is, can Cash stay fit, and can he remain consistent? Big moment number 2, Rodgers' redemption. This really could have been number 1. I had to flip a coin on it. Kind of like how referee Lewis Smith did several times during decisions in this game, including the one he didn't call on Youri Tielemans that led to the very annoying 3-1 goal. But you know, Unai Emery has this motivational messaging whiteboard in the Aston Villa dressing room, and I wonder how high on that list he had score the first damn goal. Because Villa has only scored first 5 times out of 14 Premier League games this season, and at home, we've only scored first twice. But against the backdrop of some seriously increasing scrutiny, and justifiably so, Big Morgs, who painted his hair, as Unai Emery said in preseason, justified his selection and rewarded the unwavering faith of his manager. Big Morgs bent one over and around the goalkeeper against the team that he scored his first ever Premier League goal against last year. And he was back to the guy that everybody was gassing up since the beginning of the season. The scoring, chance-creating, mazy-running, elusive, big physical presence. The inception of this goal included some vintage Boubacar Kamara sorcery. And Aston Villa, at its very best, looks just like this, where the ball is played through midfield, and that midfielder either evades or tricks or somehow gets through that first line of confrontation in a press. Then acceleration occurs. And oftentimes we score because of a fast break, some kind of underlap or overlap, or just an overload situation. But that's not how it turned out. In fact, Ollie Watkins kind of decelerated the momentum of this move. But then he plays a very simple ball into Morgan Rogers, who just guides it over and around the busiest goalkeeper in the league. And when you score a worldie like that one, especially first and relatively early in a game, it almost has this like turbo boost effect. Funny enough, Unai Emery was talking on Tuesday about whether Big Morgan needed a rest given all the minutes he's been playing, and whether Emi Buendia was ready to finally step into that role, which Emery thinks he is. But Morgan went 87 minutes on Wednesday, and he was still running by guys late in that game when we really needed him to. He was 2 for 3 on successful dribbles. 87% passing accuracy, which is excellent in his position, and he created 3 chances. Only Luka Dean created the one more. Just like Villa as a team, Morgan Rogers needed a performance, and on Wednesday, he delivered. And the number one big moment that defined Villa 3, Brentford 1, penalty precision. Ollie Watkins, if you're going by stats, was probably the man of the match. I mean, he scored a goal, he set up Morgan Rogers, he had another big chance missed, though. That's 14 now in the season. He drew the penalty, and what a ball it was that put him in a position to earn the penalty. And when, in the 25th minute, he got on the right side of young Snoop Dogg lookalike Ethan Pinnock, and that's a fantastic looky-likey shout, by the way, the big question on everybody's mind was, who's going to take it? But after Youri Tielemans' regrettable and costly miss against Crystal Palace, I thought for sure John McGinn would be the one to step up and take the responsibility. No, it was the former B, Ollie Watkins, trying to make it 5 goals in 5 games against his former team. And at the same end where Youri Tielemans missed, and on the same side of the goal, Ollie Watkins went to his right. The goalkeeper guessed correctly, but with Paul McGrath, the birthday boy, smiling over us. The goalkeeper did not get enough of a glove on the shot. It was like in slow motion, like time momentarily stopped. And again, more relief. It's just amazing what a win and a few goals can do to the categories I like to update throughout the season. And although we're still negative on the goal difference on the season, Villa did improve in many categories, including, of course, the home record. We scored first for only the second time this season at home. Our strikers' combined tally increased with Watkins' penalty. John Duran should have probably scored at least 1 goal in the second half as well. We got a penalty decision, which is a set-piece goal, and it seemed like we redeemed ourselves a little bit in the 15-minute increments, especially in minutes 16 to 30, where we scored 2 goals, and we were -3 on the season in that particular increment. The Sill Hill Brewery star performer, is it statistical or sentimental? Doesn't matter, it's Tyrone Mings. When you think about what Big Ty has gone through over the last couple of years, I mean, 18 months of rehab from a horror injury that could have been career-ending. Then his first full game back in Champions League, he decides for whatever reason he wants to play handball in Bruges. And I don't think Unai Emery holds grudges, but we could still be undefeated and without conceding in that competition if not for that moment. I'm pouring Big Ty a North Star hopped porter. It is dark, like Mings's huge shadow looming over a hapless striker. It's classic, like an old school center half. It is not bitter, just like our number 5, and it is lovingly composed like Mings was on the ball. I've got a great Christmas idea for the beer lover on your list. What about getting them a Sill Hill Brewery membership? You get 20% discounts on beers, a brewery tour, little birthday gifts here and there, plus it gives you an excuse to visit the tap room in Aston, not a 25-minute walk from Villa Park, like maybe before the game on Saturday. And when you support a local business like Sill Hill Brewery, you are also supporting this show, and I deeply appreciate it. So incredibly, Brentford are still winless away from the G-Tech Stadium, and they're only second from bottom in away record because of Damsgaard's goal on Wednesday. Otherwise, they have the exact same away record as our next opponents, Southampton. The Saints were blitzed at home by Chelsea on Wednesday and lost their captain through red card, Jack Stevens. In the process, he will not be involved on Saturday. And the great thing about Villa's win against the Bees is hopefully it starts some confidence momentum, because we should have scored more goals on Wednesday, just like we should have scored more against Bournemouth and Crystal Palace. And at some point this season, Aston Villa is going to take an opponent out back behind the woodshed. And let's hope it's this Saturday. Given the proximity to what is shockingly looking like a winnable game in Leipzig on Tuesday, and I would have never thought that at the draw or even a couple of months ago, because Leipzig was built to try to compete in this competition in the Bundesliga, you do wonder if Unai Emery might be tempted to do a little bit of rotation on Saturday. Like, is Emi Buendia ready to start? Will Amadou Onana be back? We know it's going to be another 2 weeks at least for Jacob Ramsey, but Morgan Rogers has had a lot of minutes under his belt, so has Yuri Tielemans and John McGinn. It's a risky business tinkering at the wrong time, and Villa need to continue some momentum on the winning side now, because anything less than 3 points on Saturday will be considered a big missed opportunity. Is that me being greedy? And so, the worst phase in the Unai Emery era has come to a close. It's probably one of the worst phases in his entire career. The only person who's had a worse November was probably David Coote. And I'm sure you had the same feelings that I did after that win on Wednesday, the overwhelming urge to go out and revel in it, celebrate, have a cocktail, treat yourself to a nice dinner. It was as if the pressure valve was finally released and full meltdown mode averted, at least for now. Until Saturday, savor it. And as always, up the mighty Villa!